everybody. This is Jennifer, and I have my good friends Tom and Adam with me, and we want to welcome you back to Office 365 Pulse. So it seems like many years ago, I used to do a show for IT Unity called Office 365 Pulse, and we would come in, and maybe every 2 weeks or something like that, we would give a summary of what's going on in the world of Office 365. And if you remember from that show, Tom was one of my favorite guests. We had a blast when we were doing it, and so I've always wanted to kind of bring the show back and bring the band back together and get something put out there. And an idea that we've kind of been spinning around lately is talking about the Office 365 roadmap. I know everybody has such a hard time at managing the roadmap, knowing what's coming, knowing what's switching from in development to launching. And so we thought we would put together just a quick weekly show. Like, we're looking at 20, 15, 20, 30 minutes of, hey, here's what's new, we're talking about it, here's what's hitting the roadmap, here's what you need to be aware of, and publishing that weekly. So kind of sharing what we're learning and what we have there, and kind of pointing you guys to extra links and stuff like that. We want to keep it super quick and simple, because we don't want to bog it down with a ton of commentary, because if you know anything about the three of us, give us a subject and we can probably talk about it for days on end, and nobody needs that. So we're going to try to keep it super quick and simple but informative for you guys. And so, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things that we're going to do a little bit different that we talked about is we're not going to read the roadmap to you, because that's dull and boring, and it would probably be pretty much the same words every single week, because it's really hard to see what's happening. So what it's going to be is more picking up the highlights of things that we feel are important in our particular areas of expertise or interest. You know, mine will probably be primarily SharePoint, because that's the world I live in, but also be able to take in some of the context from what we see with various blogs, posts that people have out on Twitter, from some of the community members who have, you know, really good insight to something that happened out there. So again, we're not going to cover everything on the roadmap, because that would be tedious and would take far more than 30 minutes, but we're going to try to hit the highlights and bring in some of the commentary from other people in the community, so you can get a high-level overview, get some of the, you know, highlights of what's out there, and you don't have to go out and try to track it all down, because we're going to try to do a lot of that for you.
Right, and hopefully get you in and out 15, 20 minutes so you can listen to it in the car on the way to work or something like that, so you kind of know what to expect. And, you know, Tom talked about how he's going to focus on certain things, and I am also going to be interested in certain things over another. GCC is a really big one right now, so what's coming to GCC and when is impacting so many of the people that we work with. And so understanding that, always anything you can do out of the box. Did you guys see the beautiful blog today? So many things coming out of the box with SharePoint. So super excited about that. But before we kick it off, we probably should do introductions. So I'll kick it off, do a quick intro, and then pass it to Tom and Adam. But my name is Jennifer Mason. I like to tell the world that I am allergic to syntax and semicolons. So anything you can do with Office 365 out of the box is what I specialize in, what I thrive in, what I love to talk about. So I've been doing SharePoint since my very first job out of graduating college, and so it's been a super fun journey. I've been doing it for a long time now. I love it. I love to focus on the business aspect of it, looking at adoption. How do we get people actually using the tools? We had the thriving years back in the day where we could do everything with SharePoint Designer and all of that, and then they kind of reined us back into this modern experience, and we worked through it, but then it wasn't super awesome for the out-of-the-box experience, but now it's all coming back. So through all the years, I've stuck with the out-of-the-box experience. I've been a Microsoft MVP for a while, so you may have seen me. That just means I like to talk a lot about SharePoint and share stuff with people, so I talk a whole lot. Love end users, love everything you can do, break out in hives anytime I have to deal with syntax and semicolons, so that's kind of kind of what I'm known for and where I specialize in. But I work at Planet Technologies. I am the director of innovation out there. I do a lot around bringing services like managed services and stuff like that around doing more with Office 365, whether it's training your users, whether it's just using the features, whether it's remaining compliant in the ever-changing world that we live in. So a lot of fun there. So that's me, a little bit about me. You can find me on Twitter at Jennifer Mason, and I'll pass it over to Tom to do his intro.
Okay. First, I like how she discreetly mentioned it's been a bit since college and she's been doing this for a while, but just glossed over the actual time period there.
Adam, are you making me old?
I would never
go there because I'm thinking, college. What was that? On a couple different levels actually, but yeah, college. What was that? There's great beer here. What can you say? I'm Tom. I'm the old one in this group. My name is Tom Duff. You'll also sometimes hear me referred to as Duffbert, which is kind of the nickname that I branded myself with because other people were already doing it a number of years ago, and I just kind of ran with it.
Love it.
So I work for Canby Health Solutions, which is an insurance company in the Pacific Northwest. I don't work for a contracting firm, a consulting firm. I'm actually out in the organizations that actually use this stuff, and we work with all our internal customers and go from there. Much like Jennifer, I tend to focus on out-of-the-box type things. In some ways, I like to kind of refer to myself as a power user that ended up with a software engineer title attached to my name over time. But I focus mainly on SharePoint because that's the world I kind of came to in 2009 when we finally adopted the Microsoft stack and pushed the Lotus Notes stuff out of the way. So I had to make that transition from being the Notes guru to being a SharePoint guru. And much like Jennifer, only not nearly as much as Jennifer, I also speak at conferences. I maintain blogs. My current blog that I really focus mainly on right now is one called 1minuteofficemagic.com, all one word. And that focuses on Office 365 productivity tips and pretty much publish 2 to 3 times a week. Quick things that you can do in just a minute because we branded it internally with Spark One, just a minute. And they are little tips and tricks you can do with things like Word and Excel and Outlook and SharePoint and all these kind of things.
Super helpful stuff.
Helpful. It's a lot of fun to do. I do it in a very conversational tone and have fun with it. And I also do webcasts on a semi-regular basis with Christian Buckley, where we go 5 versus 5, and we have rounds that people can vote on which tip they like the best between the two of us, and we keep track. I'm proud to say I'm leading right now. But that's kind of my world. Not quite an MVP. Hope to get there someday, but happy to be part of this and looking forward to see where this goes. Aw, thank you.
That was so sweet. Our hearts.
Yeah, that's going to look really good on my intro bio.
Adam and Jen love me.
Adam, take it away.
What's up, guys? My name's Adam Oakes. I actually work at Planet Technologies with Jen. I just a moderately recent move over to the company. My background is actually a little bit different than Jen and Thomas, which will make it kind of interesting, hopefully. I actually originally started doing Exchange primarily and mail, and that kind of moved and progressed out to Office 365. So today I'm basically a cloud architect. What really gets me going, what really gets me excited, is all the really new cutting-edge stuff that's coming out. A lot of the really more advanced security and technical features are stuff that I just really find fascinating. And I think 365 as a whole is really represented well by us as a group, because you have people that have done SharePoint traditionally in Exchange, and while we would have just been 2 employees that worked in the same department previously, our job roles and our functions are ever increasingly coming together. And I think that's mirrored throughout most companies and throughout most organizations and enterprises that you see today. So I definitely have a little bit of a different background, but now I basically do all things Office 365. As it's probably not surprising how Tom, me, and Jen know each other, I also go to conferences and speak and talk and do various things in the community like that, which is always super important. I'm going to go ahead and echo something Tom said at the start. I think one of the most important things, I've done my job for the last 5 years or so has been partnering with enterprise organizations and trying to tell them how to get the most out of 365. And essentially, it's been part of my job to stay with what's current and what's coming out with 365. And I can tell you guys, that takes a lot of effort. There really isn't just one plain source you can go to. It's going and looking at a ton of other places. It's going and reading the roadmap. It's checking out Twitter. And so the idea for this podcast that we kind of got together and started talking about what we could do, I really, really liked it because, yes, we can keep it short and sweet, but let's be honest, most people don't have the time to go out there and look at 12 different sources and try to figure out what it means. So because part of that's what we do for our job anyways, we're going to spend in the effort to hopefully collaborate some of that stuff for you guys and give you just short, digestible information so you can be aware of what's going on and what's coming ahead. So super excited for it. I'm super excited to kind of get involved in everything going on. So, yeah.
I love it. I love it. And we've set up the podcast purposely with 3 of us in it going weekly. We're going to publish it every, I believe, Thursday at this point. We're going to be publishing it. But we did it that way because there's going to be certain weeks where you'll just see 2 of us, and other weeks you'll get all 3 of us, and just a mixed bag of folks. So we really look forward to sharing this information with you guys. In the beginning, it's going to be hard to get a rhythm going. Not hard to get a rhythm going, hard to get our arms around it because there's so much out there. But as we start going, we're going to get this rhythm, and it's going to be a really fantastic time. So what we thought we would do in this first episode that we have is talk a little bit about the release cycle. And so when you look at Office 365 and the release cycle, there's something that they call targeted release. And this is where you can go in with your tenant and say, hey, I'm in Office 365 and I want to be a targeted release user. And what that means is stuff is going to roll to you first. And so Microsoft is going to work, they call them in different rings, but ring 0 is going to be the feature teams, and that's going to be the teams that are actually building the feature are going to be using it. So the SharePoint team, if they're building new teams or new features inside of SharePoint, they're going to be using it in kind of their environment and different tenants there, getting working. It's going to go through checks and balances, make sure everything's good. Then it's going to go to the larger Office 365 team, who's going to be using it, again, testing it, different things there. Then it goes to Microsoft, and it gets deployed and used at Microsoft in their Office 365 tenant. Now, a lot of people know Microsoft and they think, oh, it's just the product team that's sitting back there and working and using the tools and different things like that. But they also have the partner channels. They have sales resources. They have people that are way out in the field, not really connected too much to Redmond at all. They're using it in their day-to-day operations. So before things even make it into Office 365 targeted release, they've kind of been tested out by a lot of different channels, already. And Adam and Tom, feel free to jump in and interrupt me anytime as we're going through it.
Well, one of the things I love too, right? So having done deployments for a whole bunch of different customers and working at my own companies too, we all know what like an ideal test pilot group should be. But let's be honest, like 99% of the time it's your IT group. And I love how like you can almost see that at Microsoft. Like they go to themselves first, like, yeah, we'll make us the guinea pigs. It's okay. It just makes me laugh every time I see it.
I love it. I'm glad that they do it. And then they go into targeted release. And targeted release is something that you can set at a tenant. And there's 2 different options you have. You can say my entire tenant is targeted release, or you can say there's select users, and those users are targeted release. So you have 2 options that you have there. And what
it's
will happen
also, sorry, go ahead, Jim. I was just going to, it's worth noting that those behaviors are not necessarily the same too. They will come out with some features and some applications that are only given to the people that have their whole tenant opted in. So definitely you go through and you look at which one you want, but just know while you are going to get shown some of the stuff first, there's a chance if you're not doing your whole tenant, which honestly I don't think any of us would recommend for a production environment, but there's a chance if you're not doing this to your whole tenant, you may, for instance, I know Stream didn't go out right away to people that didn't have their whole tenant opted in.
Yeah, and that brings up an interesting point. The product teams, as they're releasing new features, when they get to targeted release, they actually do have a little bit more information there. So I'm going to say the T word, but telemetry. So they're using telemetry inside of Office 365 to know what everyone's doing. So they may look at it and say, oh, we have these new OneDrive features. I'm going to push them out to people in targeted release that have heavy OneDrive usage. because I want them to take advantage of the features. I'm going to push it out. We'll get feedback. We'll also see how well they're adopting it, and then we can keep releasing it in targeted release until we get to a point where we can go to general availability, which is the standard release cadence. And so you'll see people who are in targeted release. I have maybe 6 tenants that I'm using. 1 or 2 of them are production, and then the rest of them are going to be test tenants and different things that I'm exploring with. One's associated with just my MVP account and different things there. All of those 6 tenants are typically have different items lit up in them. So I'll have some where I get like the new page features, but then on my other tenant I don't have it. So there's no guaranteed when you're in targeted release. If they say something went out to targeted release, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be in your tenant. That typically means it's coming soon, and it's going to, if you're on targeted release, it gets released to targeted release. You're on that schedule, and it will roll out at different paces based on what's going on.
Yeah, I think it's really important what Jen said too. They're doing this with some of their own data in mind, and they want to elicit feedback of the people that are either already using their products or are potential good candidates for it. So say you really like OneDrive, like Jen said, by not only having usage inside of your tenant of OneDrive up, you can increase your chance. There's times too I've seen where when stuff is in targeted release, you can basically go through the Premier system and just say you're interested in this. There's features you like that are coming out. Maybe you hear it from us, or maybe you see it in the user voice. And why they won't always grant that, they're using the targeted release to try to finalize the product before it goes into production. So if there's a certain thing you're really interested in, know there is some power you can take by speaking up, by wanting to use those features. So always know that that's an option to you.
Yeah, and I think that with the targeted release, it's interesting to see what goes out there. You think about like Teams and different things like that. A lot of things will roll to targeted release, but not have all of the features fully baked. So it might roll to targeted release, but the only way you can manage it is through PowerShell. There's nothing in the admin center that lets you manage it. And then by the time it gets to general availability and the standard release, all of those features are then put in. So they really do rely a lot on feedback for those that are in that targeted release phase. And of course, we'd be remiss to say that the place that you give Microsoft your feedback is in the tech community. The Microsoft tech community really is the place to go. And user voice. Those are the 2 places to really get your voice heard about the features and the feedback and different things there. And we have seen where they've made announcements that something is coming to targeted release, and before it even gets turned on in targeted release, it gets pulled back because people are like, heck no, you are not doing that to my environment. So that has happened before. I've also seen things come in targeted release and stay in a small percentage of targeted release because when they rolled it out, it's not to say there's issues with it. I mean, things are tested by the time it gets to targeted release, but maybe it doesn't work in the way from a usability standpoint that they were going for. And as they get more data, they can learn more things and tweak it. So that's kind of the rate at which things are going there and how things are rolling out. So it's a pretty interesting thing to watch. There's a lot of unknowns still, and I think that's one of the big frustrations that people have with the release schedule, because it's like, well, just dang it, tell me, give me at least a time frame that you think it's coming, and that's pretty hard to get right now.
I was going to say, if I can add one more thing in there, where it shows Ring 4 is, worldwide release, there's actually kind of a Ring, let's call it 4.5, which is, in our case, it's the semi-annual release.
Right.
So in a case like that, because we're a little bit more risk adverse as a company, and we have integrations with, most often it's like the Office suite, so Word, Excel, things like that, that needs to play well with other applications. And historically we found that, hey, we're going up to Office 2013 and we're still using this application, which is like, well, we support 2007, and it's like, stop. So we actually have our Office suite type items set to semi-annual, which is fine for safety reasons, but it bugs the heck out of me because I'll be seeing everybody going, look at this new cool feature. Like, I won't see it till July.
You're still in black and white. Everyone else has full color.
Yeah, pretty much so.
Love it.
What is nice is that our SharePoint stuff is on regular general worldwide release. So I am seeing that on a regular basis, but I'm still trying to work through that thing of, hey, I just shared a cool tip with you, and everybody's like, no, I don't see it. So that's a little frustrating for me personally, because of course I'd like to be targeted release, if the truth be known, but you do kind of have that option to say, I don't want to be on the bleeding edge, I don't want to be in the curve or on the wave with everybody else. I'm perfectly happy paddling around in the wave after wash there, and I'll get it once everybody's dog fooded it and nobody is blowing up.
Don't worry, Tom. You probably still get it faster than the government.
The government, yeah.
This is probably true, yes.
I'll go ahead and say, too, I think the disclaimer Jen threw in there is almost a great disclaimer for generically all the information we're going to talk about. A lot of times when you're watching stuff coming in the roadmap and stuff coming out, as Jen said, the first iteration, sometimes even the first iteration of when it goes into full production, is maybe not fully baked where they want it to be. The most obvious example to me is Office 365 groups. A lot of the awesome administrative features like custom naming policies and group, automatic expiration and stuff like that. None of that was available for almost the first year that Office 365 groups were a thing, unless you knew to go in and do the PowerShell. So we'll try when we're talking about stuff in the roadmap that we care about, if we know those things, to give you a heads up. But no, when what we're trying to do is kind of stay ahead of what's coming out and inform you guys. There's a chance when it's coming out, it may not be where Microsoft would like it to be a year from now type of a deal. So as we're going through and talking about everything, we'll try to throw in those caveats if we know them, but just know anytime dealing with it, even when you get past first release and get into production, there'll be times that maybe the experience isn't as ideal as it would be as something that's fully baked that they've been doing for a long time.
Yeah, totally. Well, cool, guys. I mean, this has been so fun on the first show. I thought we could kind of end the first show with talking about what is like the one thing that is in the roadmap. Now, it can either be something in development, something that is in the process of launching, or something that is already released that we can kind of talk about. So I'm going to be nice, and I'm going to let you guys go first so that I don't steal anyone's thunder. So I'm going to let Tom go first. Go for it.
Okay. Well, I think to pick one that is really kind of cool in my book, and that's because I've had kind of I'm not going to use this, this is a lot better than I thought it was, now I really like it, is Microsoft Stream.
Oh, okay.
When I first heard Microsoft Stream talked about at the Las Vegas conference last year, it was like, nope, doesn't do this, nope, doesn't do that, nope, we don't have this, nope, we don't have plans for that yet, and I'm like, this doesn't do anything. It's not fully baked. Why do they even have it out there? But then I started playing with it a little bit later after I'd advised, my organization, don't go with it. Not fully baked, not ready. Don't do this. Well, then I put a couple videos out there. It's like, I may have been overly focused on things it doesn't do.
The automatic subtitles are amazing.
Oh, yeah. So we got Stream in. I ended up copying over like 750 videos we had accumulated on a different platform over 4 years, I think. So we're using it now. It's really great. But the thing that and it's actually going back, it's actually launched now and available, and that is the Stream mobile app. Oh, my God. If you have Stream in your organization and they allow you to use mobile apps, go search the App Store and get the Microsoft Streams mobile app, because you go in there and it launches with a Discover page that shows all the videos that you can see, and then you can go out there and click and the video will come up and start playing. But what's nice about that is you can add it to your watch list, which says, hey, I don't have time to watch it right now, but I want to develop a list of things I have to go back and watch. But you can also download it for offline viewing. Awesome, awesome feature. So if you're used to getting up in the morning and walking on the treadmill or doing whatever, and you don't have time to watch a video during the day, go out, grab the videos, download them for offline viewing, and you can watch it without having to have a network connection.
Cool.
Personally, I think that's, on top of all the cool features that you have in Stream anyway, the mobile app has taken a lot of those to make it much easier for you to manage your time when it comes to watching certain content and not being tied to either your desktop or your laptop or something with a network connection, or the fact that I had to be in the office in order to watch this and I've got other things to do, so I never watch it. the mobile app is, I don't want to use the word game changer, but it's really cool.
It's awesome.
So that would be my one roadmap, been launched. It's still pretty new, like within a month or two, I think.
Cool.
Definitely worth going out and grabbing.
Sweet. How about you, Adam?
That's an awesome one. Yeah, I think Stream was a great one. I kind of mentioned this as Tom was talking, but the first time you upload a video and you go back like a day later and there's subtitles that you didn't put in there of everything you're saying, you're just like it's really cool.
What I have to say though is the subtitles that they use when they're live streaming something like at a conference must be a different live streaming event, because when I go back and look at my generated subtitles, I find that I apparently add a lot of periods when I talk. So I'll go, and then we're going to, period, take a look at this, and I think for, period, everybody doing these kind of things, period. And so it's funny because you think you sound really clear. This will give you a different experience.
Cortana has a different experience for you.
Yes, it really does. But anyway, go ahead.
So for mine, one of the things you guys will come to find out, I'm a big cheerleader, literally, but I'm a big cheerleader for Microsoft Teams. I think it's a wonderful application. It's going to be replacing Skype eventually, so you might as well get on board. But there's just so much that Teams has opened up. Specifically, basically any of the things you can do through Office 365 groups, the Teams client makes it easier for you to use. But so I figured as an olive branch to both Tom and his SharePoint ways, and Jen and her government suite ways, I would kind of talk a little bit about some really cool thing I think is coming with Teams. So first of all, from the government side, I believe it's supposed to be in the GCC High. It's supposed to be January, so 7 more days. It's supposed to be out according to the roadmap.
Did they say this January or just any January?
January 29. They say January 2019, but we'll see. And actually, the DoD one is even supposed to be February. So
awesome.
I'm a huge fan of Teams. And when I first came to Planet, it was weird to me because Teams is like my ace in the hole that I pull out for every client I talk to. But when I was talking to customers in the government suite, I was like, oh yeah, this cool thing's coming, but that's about to happen. But the one thing that I think is awesome that's coming in with Teams. So for Tom and my SharePoint background, they redid SharePoint Online's file experience a couple months ago, and it's awesome. It gives you customization that you can do custom columns, you can do sorts, you can do filters, you can work flows directly off of the file view, everything like that. Really, really cool stuff that's really kind of bringing SharePoint Online to a new level of integration with some of the other applications that they're doing and really bringing it to the modern face. Well, they're actually actively working on it. They say in the calendar year of 2019, so I don't know when this is, but they're basically going to take that entire file view experience and actually integrate it into the Teams application itself. So in addition to you just being able to see files, they recently added so you can see SharePoint sites themselves, but they're actually going to take that new look and feel that you get in SharePoint Online where you can literally run flows directly from the files and stuff like that and actually integrate that whole dashboard look and feel around files into the Teams application themselves.
And
exactly.
SharePoint or Teams, the same look. I love it. I'm very excited about that.
So hopefully that'll be great, and that's my olive branch to my wonderful co-presenters to talk about both the government and SharePoint.
Well, mine is super simple, y'all. I told you I have been allergic to syntax and semicolons, and they forever ago, right, we used to go into SharePoint Designer and customize that data view web part, and if the list item was equal to this, then I was going to format it this way, and I spent hours doing this, y'all, hours. And then if I accidentally did it wrong, I broke it, made a mess, but then came Modern, and they took it away. And then they gave it to us, and they gave it to us in what they would call like a column formatter, and it was this cool thing. You could go to a column, you could say format column, and then they gave us a box, and I'm like, what the heck? And so
I must admit, when I saw that the first time, I thought, Jen's not going to like this.
I'm like, great. Now I have to put in some combination of syntax and semicolons, and it's going to work. But they helped me out because they gave me the code, and, believe it or not, I actually can do a few things with syntax and semicolons.
She doesn't want people to know that.
But I can. So we had to use JSON to customize it. We do all that. Well, I didn't like that. Well, it has reached the launching phase, so you should be seeing it soon. I have it in about 3 of my 6 tenants where you can go in and you can go column format. And then you can go in, and if you have a choice field, it will be there, and then you can say, here we go. If it's, 1, then show it as blue. And if it's 2, show it as green. And it's just beautifully done and so easy. So that is my number one thing on the roadmap. I'm so excited about that because it's reached launch phase. So we're starting to see it. And that's just one of the many things that are coming to List and Library. So I am super pumped about that.
That is one of the features I really want to dig into here if I can ever come up for air. Because when we've had to do those kind of things in the past, we've usually resorted to putting jQuery out on the page. Yeah, I know, bad. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Hide your mouth when you say that one time.
Yeah, I know. Nobody can look for you here. But yeah, we would do it with jQuery, and it's God, I hate doing this, and it doesn't go well to other views, and da-da-da-da-da. And of course, I had to do it, because, your business users aren't going to be able to do that.
Oh, right.
And so now with this column formatting, I'm like, oh my gosh, people are going to come up with some of the most incredible list views out there that show them
easy.
What they need.
It's finally easy. It was okay with JSON. It was a little bit of a pain, but I could cut and paste. I could copy. I could, find and replace, and I could get it doing what I needed. But now with the out-of-the-box stuff, they've really hit the nail on the head for what I think they need to do. So now we'll just continue to see probably the most common things that people were doing with JSON will probably start to get, would be my guess, an out-of-the-box way to do it to where you don't have to write the code. But then if you want to do something more complex, you can use the JSON to do it. So
right.
All really, really cool stuff. And then the other one that hit, I know I said 1, but I'm taking 2, is the reminder on a SharePoint document library or SharePoint list. So if there's a date column, there's an automatic flow reminder now, and you can say, hey, remind me, and you pick the number of days before that date or something, and it's going to send out a flow email reminder to you. And it's really slick. So that's the other thing that's just popped in my tenant recently that I am yes, go team, go. So.
Yeah, I can't wait to share all these as tips in the internal Spark 1 and the external 1 Minute Office Magic, because we're just in the process of doing our migration from SharePoint 2010 up to SharePoint Online. So there's not really enough momentum yet internally, and that's going to kind of start next month, for me to share a lot of the new SharePoint tips.
Right.
But I know that once I get to that, I'm just going to have this wealth of material that I'll be able to write up 3 or 4 times a week. Oh, yeah, pretty much. I mean, when I first started, it's I've got a lot of SharePoint stuff. And it's I probably haven't written a decent SharePoint tip in 2 years now, because it's nobody wants it in SharePoint 2010. I mean, we're so far behind the curve.
The wave's coming.
Yeah. So.
Well, cool, guys. This has been a great intro to the first show. I really look forward to recording next week. And so thanks, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.